All right, good afternoon, folks. My name is Travis. We are Oscar Mike Radio. Oscar Mike Radio is part of the Hoobazoo Network. That's WHOOBAZOO. You can find out more on hoobazoo.com. And this is episode 108. That's right, it's 108. And I am remote. Mission top secret, destination unknown. But still, I am in what has to be one of the coolest places I've been in a while. And it is my great pleasure to be with Gary and Jake as we talk about the military, we talk about history, World War I, because I am in, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in a collection of military memorabilia and history that you won't find anywhere else very easily. So without any further ado, Gary and Jake, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having us, Travis.
Absolutely, same.
Like I said, I'm so excited and pumped up that I can't help myself. And come to find out, when I rolled up in the driveway, I knew that I was in somewhere different because there was an actual World War II Jeep in the garage, and it just got better from there. So before we dig into the collection, I want to talk about a couple of things. Mainly, I was pleased to find out that you served in the Marine Corps, Gary, but your father also served in World War II. I was hoping you could kind of tell us about his service.
Yes, he enlisted in 1944 at age 17. He went over to England and he got put on an LST-310, the landing ship tanks, and he participated in the Normandy invasion, landing on Omaha Beach on that morning of June 6, 1944. He was 1 mile off Omaha Beach that morning when all the infantry was landing and all that. And that previous night they had let off 13 ducks about 5 miles out in the water, and 11 of them sank. And unfortunately, a lot of the crews drowned and sank. And that's probably was one of his worst memories. But then after that, he went back and forth between the English Channel and France and England, and either bringing back prisoners, bringing back wounded. He brought back the 101st Airborne back. He said they were the toughest guys he'd ever seen. He said they spent as many days on land as they were supposed to spend hours. Actually, I have one of his knives, a boot knife from him. I'll have to show you.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, and then he finished up his tour. They drove some ammunition. 3 LSTs were laden with ammunition. They were going up the Seine River, and they went too close to the Guernsey Islands, and they started firing on him. So his LST, they would see the flash. Time to time, the skipper would turn the boat, and it would the explosion would land like right where the ship was. And if any time there he was hit, I wouldn't be speaking here right now. None of us would be here.
Now, how old was your father when he was serving in World War II?
Basically 18.
What?
Yeah, he actually went in at 17, and he was 10 days prior. He turned 18, and he was at Normandy Beach. And then he finished out, like say, going back and forth with prisoners. And he was bombed. He was shelled. He was the planes. And then he ended up getting jaundice.
Oh, wow.
And he ended up in the hospital prior to his discharge in 46. But he was very, very proud. He lived to be 91, and I have all his uniforms, his books, his pictures. I have all his stuff.
So is that how you decided to join the military? Were you drafted? When did you serve yourself?
I went in 1970, and that was a very high draft number. So I joined. But I was 18, and a lot of us needed a good kick in the pants. In 18, we all needed that, so I joined, and I got the infantry. It was only a 2-year enlistment back then. That's all you had to do. And you didn't do too much of an MOS, so I was a machine gunner over 31. I ended up in an infantry company, a weapons platoon in Conneaut Bay, Echo Company, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines.
So you had the resort duty, right?
That's what everybody says. But you're a Marine also. You know that there's no resort there, no matter what.
No, a lot of heat, a lot of moss, a lot of wet clothes all the time.
Wet clothes, mud. Hawaii had no snakes. It's funny, nobody knows that, but they didn't. But we had our centipedes. They were a foot long.
Right. They're
And
huge.
you can't camp out, and they would get underneath your poncho because they were trying to keep warm. So you turn it over in the morning and be like loaded with these things you got to sleep with all night.
So when you went into the Vietnam War, what did your father think about that after serving in World War II?
Well, unfortunately, my parents were divorced, and I didn't really talk to my father that much during that time. But no, he was proud I was there. But I didn't serve in Vietnam. It's just the way it was. It was winding down, and I was all, as I told you earlier, I was all dressed up, but they just didn't want me.
I meet your son, Jake, through a project we're working on for the New England Center and Home for Veterans. It's their 2018 Leave No One Behind Gala, right? What we're trying to do is really bring some awareness and attention to World War I. And as I got into this project that we're doing, I learned that just not 20 miles from where we are right now, German U-boats sunk boats off the Cape.
Right, they did off of, I think it was Easton.
Yeah.
They did. It was just in the paper the other day about that.
I didn't know that the country of India, well, it wasn't India at the time, committed 100,000 troops to help the British.
The Gurkhas.
Yeah, the Gurkhas and those guys to help out in World War I. You never hear about that. And I started learning so much, and it's kind of different for me because, as we were talking about before, my kids played this video game called Battlefield, and a lot of what they know about World War I comes from this video game. So we started talking, Jake and I, about how to make this project more real. And he said, my father has this collection. Now, I've seen collections before, and generally it's maybe a Foot Locker at best of stuff. It might be a suitcase or a duffel sea bag with some old stuff in it. Suffice to say, ladies and gentlemen, he could pack a U-Haul with all the things he has. I am in absolute heaven right now. So I guess I want to know is how did you get into this? I mean, you served in the Marine Corps. You come from a military family. What started this whole process of collecting this stuff for, lack of a better term, this is history right here.
Yeah, we were in the middle of it. And I also want to add my grandfather served in World War I.
Really?
I have a picture of him over there. He's in there, and he was actually in 17th Regiment, Company E, served in Echo E Company also.
No kidding.
10 years later. So yeah, he deserved. He didn't go across overseas, but he did. He was also in the military, so we have a military family.
I guess so.
But no, we started. I used to go to Florida, and I started visiting some battlefields, and I visited most of them on the East Coast, and I ended up going to some museums, and I was just like, I got to have some of this stuff. So I started with some buckles and some buttons and this and that, and I visited from Appomattox to Harper's Ferry, Antietam, Sharpsburg, Gainesville, White Oak Swamp, Mechanicsville, Gettysburg numerous times, Sharpsburg, like I said, White Oak Swamp, most of the Petersburg, and then I guess what you call, I get bit by the bug, and then it just doesn't go away, and I still collect. I've been on eBay for 18 years, and
that is the only thing that he will do on the computer is go on eBay or I'll listen to YouTube. That's it.
Then I got hot in World War I, and I just prior to the anniversary, I said I'm going to get 100 uniforms. Well, I got up to 80. I got 80 helmets, and almost got my 100 limit, but I have 150 250 World War II uniforms.
What?
And it's too late to turn back now. Put it that way.
So your feedback rating on eBay must be high.
Perfect. Perfect.
But I'm walking around here, and folks, I know it's a podcast, so I can't really. Well, I'm going to try to show you on like the Facebook live stream. You'll have some pictures in there, but this isn't like going to a costume shop and buying a military costume and dressing up as it. You can look at these and see that this is an actual legit set of Marine Corps Alphas. These are the actual helmets that the doughboys used back in the day. And it's all right there in three dimensions that you can look at within reason, touch, and examine. And I guess one of the first things that I would ask after looking at the uniforms, is it just me or do they seem small? Because a lot of military guys now are 6'3", 6'4", 200 plus pounds. These are all like
34s, 36s.
Yeah.
It's tough to find anything over 40s because 40s would be like someone would buy them to reenact, and that's why even though in the World War I's even smaller, they probably average 34s.
Were men just smaller back then?
Must have.
Hey, now look at the size of that uniform from behind you. It almost looks like a tube top, the way it's just cut off from the bottom.
Well, that's what they call the Eisenhowers, the Ike jackets. It's just Class A's were the long ones. The short ones are called the Ikes,
Oh.
the Eisenhower jackets. Just a different style.
Right.
Same thing, but no, and it's funny. I had 7 high school seniors here a week ago, and they looked at it and said, "Boy, you must have a lot of ghosts down here." I said, "It doesn't work like that. I display it with pride, dignity, and loyalty, and that's what you do. I don't mix things up. Everything is taken, hung up. It's all stored in plastic, stored in closets and all that, and it's taken out. It's all done with dignity."
What was it like showing these high school seniors this collection, and what did you see in their eyes as they looked at this?
A couple of them were going to join. One or two were going to join the Marines, and they took more interest. The other ones went in one ear, one out the other. Unfortunately, like I told you, they thought Omaha Beach was the place you bought steaks at.
No way.
Yeah. So we need to get it through. And actually, right now, the problem with the whole hobby is we're not getting the young people in it. And that's what we need to do. They just have no interest, like you said. They have no idea if you said Bellewood or Hurricane Forest or any other Taro or Iwo Jima. They have no idea what that is. And we need to know that 28,000 Marines were casualties of Iwo Jima. And they want you to take one island so we could advance and get closer to Japan and we could bomb them. But we need to get more of them. They need to know more. They need to learn more. We need to teach more. That's it. And like I said, I don't have any ghosts down here.
So, Jake, you grew up obviously watching this. You know that your grandfather served in World War II. Your dad served during the time of the Vietnam War. What's it like when watching your dad collect this stuff and seeing the look on his face when he brings in an item he's trying to get?
I have seen all of the packages coming every week through our wide world of eBay, and it is from something which was very new and interesting at first, and I have grown to appreciate the collection that he has and the wealth of knowledge that he has gained through it.
Well, I mean, it really came to my view about your perspective when we asked for help with this project. You knew a lot of the World War I things we were talking about, and I'm like, okay, there's something different here about you. So to give context, I'm talking about why it's important that we raise awareness to this. And, Jake knew what a doughboy helmet was. He understood different parts of the chevron, parts of the uniforms. And I'm like, okay, he says he didn't serve in the military, but he really understands rank structure and different kinds of uniforms. And he tells me about this collection. And again, folks, my words don't do this justice. I mean, there's like legit signs, old newspapers that you can see from the 1920s, 30s, 40s. It's really a step back in time. And to hear you talk about this is making a lot of this real. I guess since you fired a machine gun in the Marine Corps, you were an M60 gunner. What do you think the difference in weaponry was like for World War I versus what you used and what I used? Because I can't imagine fighting a war with a bolt-action rifle. But our forefathers did.
They did, and if you know about the 1903 Springfield, we started with we didn't have enough rifles in the beginning, so they came up with a model 1917. 3 companies produced it. It was Eddystone, Winchester, and Remington. And like we had a shortage of rifles. We had like 600,000. We were trying to train a couple million men. So these companies stepped up. They produced these rifles, but they were bolt action, like you said, probably 6-round, 5-round, and a stripper clip, and 6 rounds. And then they just got into, but they did have the machine guns, the different ones, and it was the Germans had them also. It was just a terrible war. Then they had gas, and they used gas, and they used the artillery, and just was a very vicious war.
So, did you study trench warfare at all? Because one of the things that I need to learn about is why was trench warfare used so heavily in World War One, but then almost completely done away with not 10 years later for World War II. Well, not 10, but you know what I'm saying, 10, 15 for World War II. Like it's not even part of it.
You're right. They used the trench warfare, but they didn't get anywhere. They did lose hundreds of thousands of guys to gain 4 miles, like Ypres and all that in Belgium, back and forth for Verdun, and they gained nothing. In World War II, they would just go around it, like the Maginot Line. They would go around it, like the French just stood in their line, and the Germans just flanked it. Went right around it, ignored it, left them there, standing, left hundreds of thousands of guys doing nothing, and just went right around them. Whereas World War One, you fought head on to try to get the trenches, and sometimes you'd lose 50,000 guys, like the Somme in Belgium, and they would gain nothing. And,
wow.
Which I have a lot of relics from there also.
One of the things that was evident in World War II that I wanted to kind of go down and talk to you about is the German equipment. There's a lot of stories that I've read, a lot of history I've read, where the German equipment, for a lot of reasons, was they were the superior weaponry maker, whatever you want to call it, for their time. Even compared to the Japanese and Americans, they were the best. Were their guns and vehicles better than ours in World War One, or was it pretty much a level playing field?
It was probably pretty much a level playing field. We had the Springfield, and we had they had the Gua 98, which was the same thing, just a bolt action rifle. So they had nothing, but they had the Lewis and the Spandau, the different machine guns, and they put it together. But then when you get to World War II, the Japanese had the worst, the junkiest.
Really?
Oh, it's some of their rifles. There's a big difference between early war and late war Japanese. I have a lot of bayonets in the 90 Arasaka, and the quality of the rifles themselves was just unbelievable. In the beginning, they used steel parts, and in the end, they used wood parts for butt stocks and stuff like that. Because just the Japanese had the worst. Thank God they didn't have any better, because we had a hard enough time with them. To the ferocity and tenacity.
What I've been read is like the Japanese Zero for their airplanes were superior to a lot of the American airplanes in the first part of World War II. But everything I've read, Gary, says that they got better. We got better training and got better aircraft as time went on, and we had more of it.
Right. The Japanese Zero had one big fault: the gas tank was right behind the pilot. And if you hit that, it was the end of the Zero. Zero was faster than ours. In the beginning, we had the P-40 Warhawks and the F-4Fs and the F-6Fs. And then in the end, we ended up with the Mustangs, and they're much, much more superior planes. But the Japanese Zero was an easy plane to shoot down, because if you could get a shot like that, the gas tank was right behind the pilot. And that couldn't have been a good thing.
Not really. I was wondering, in your words, if you could speak about Iwo Jima for a minute. I know we're kind of focusing on World War One because of Jake's involvement, but a lot of people still don't understand why Iwo Jima was so important.
George College, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
I had a couple of Iwo Jima survivors here since
No kidding.
They've passed, but they autographed a couple of things for me. But The reason was the island hopping, so we could get the wounded B-29s would come back, and they had no place to land, so a lot of them had a ditch. Well, now we got closer. That was the whole significance of Iwo Jima, which is another landing hop closer to the Japanese mainlands, and it worked. And we just kept getting closer and closer and closer, and then our bombing campaigns were awful, and I think what to be the B-29, the Enola Gay, and the Colonel Paul Tibbets. He dropped in
Right.
one on Hiroshima, and then Nagasaki was a boxcar, and those were for Tinian, I believe, which was one step closer than Iwo. So it just was a methodical move-on thing, but they just sacrificed so many people to get these islands. But if we had to go back to the mainland, thank God Truman made the decision with the atomic bomb, and I'm not an advocate of the nuclear war, but if we didn't, we would have taken 1 million men to take Japan. And so Iwo Jima was a stepping stone, and it was a costly one.
So
It took 3 Marine divisions
Yeah.
to take it, 4th, 5th, and 6th. No, 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
in your mind, in your view, as I look around at these, again, these for me, they're priceless. This is better than any museum I've ever been in. I've been to the Smithsonian in D.C. Why is World War One important to remember now? After
Well, it was supposedly the war to end all wars. It was the Great War, but it didn't turn out like that. We didn't make another 20, 30 years. We're back at it again. We can't seem to get things right. So I mean, we thought we had it right, finished it, and then at least the only thing there was no more gas, which they're using probably gas today in certain instances. But it was the one. It was a big step up from the Civil War, from the Span Am War. It was big as far as technology. We got into the tank, the flamethrower, the machine guns. None of those were in existence with these other wars, except for the artillery. But we had a lot more advanced artillery in World War One. I mean, vicious and brutal. And then the trench warfare. That was, like you say, another. I just couldn't imagine getting shelled for the amount of tonnage that they would. It was in tons, thousands of tons of ammunition. Imagine being shelled for 30 days straight. I mean, morning, noon, and night. I mean, no man. How can any man stand up to that? I mean, one of these guys went crazy.
Well, that was around the time in I think 1920. Britain did a study with Sigmund Freud. That's where the term shell shock came from. I mean, because of that, that's why that's there. Jake, you've been part of this project we're working on for the New England Center and Home for Veterans. What's it like talking with friends and your father about this project that you're a part of, and seeing some interest now in the younger generation about World War One and what we've done?
Well, I can see the genuine excitement on his face when we take the time to talk about these things. And it is a rewarding experience, to say the least. And as far as the younger generations getting a message out and whatnot, that is something that never is easy, but I am happy to be a person that can help vocalize this and can help be sort of a person that can help lead this and make it cool for people to enjoy this and appreciate history.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's people like your father and yourself making this relatable to younger people. And maybe you had 7 seniors over and only 2 really got it, but those 2 got it. Those 2, came in and said, "Wow, this is somebody really sacrificed to so we could have the life we enjoy today, and this is just cool as hell." Excuse the expression. So I think it's relevant, and I think it's important 100 years later.
Absolutely. I mean, like you say, we got to remember World War One. I mean, that's when we, like I say, we started with this, generation, and then we had World War Two, which was we were nothing. We weren't prepared at all. We got December 7, 1941. We were attacked. we all jumped into it. But it goes to show what the country, especially America, is capable of doing. We can get off our hinds and get up there. And World War One started this. We weren't prepared for all of World War One, and we reacted to it. And we fought a year and a half. We lost our fair share of guys. We went into a really firestorm there. But in World War II, the country got up even more. I mean, we lived 4 miles from a base, Camp Edwards, and they trained hundreds of thousands of guys. And I have a lot of artifacts and different uniphotos and from there. But most of those guys all went over to Italy. They went to Normandy, and they went to France, but they were trained like 4 miles from here. So
No kidding.
yeah, it's Otis Air Force Base.
Yeah, they changed the name of it from Camp Edwards to Otis, and it's right nearby. It's honestly down the street.
I learned something new. I'm like, I've never heard of Camp Edwards. Now I know why.
Yeah, but even though it's not going to be good radio, here's a picture of the of barracks.
And that's what they did in 1 year. That's why I put the two together. The 1940 photo shows nothing, and then 1 year later, we put 30 barracks
So
a day.
nothing.
But it gets to show what this country can do. Unfortunately, we need a war to make us get up and do that. But we're capable. But we needed it from this generation of kids. This generation of kids, like I said, they thought Omaha Beach was the place we bought steaks at. It's like
You're kidding.
I like to invite people here who are interested in it, and I always will, and I always do. I'll put out stuff where normally you can just walk in out of the room and you'll get enough of it. So the kids came with the dad, and I was more than happy to have them here. You know what I mean? Like I said, if I touch one, if I touch two, it got into their heads that we were mission accomplished.
I know my kids are interested, and it's easy sometimes not to take them to the air shows or the museums, but if you get the opportunity and they want to go with you, I feel it's my responsibility to take them. I feel it's the least I can do. I wish, Gary, that my grandfathers had talked to me more about their World War II service than they did. They said almost nothing. I saw a picture of their ships. They're both in the Navy. I saw a picture of their uniforms, and that's pretty much all they said. And so I think it's important because I think kids are curious. I mean, Jake, we're finding out people at the group we're doing this with didn't know anything about World War I, and they're starting to go out on their own and ask us questions. It has to be, for me, it's a good feeling. I don't know how you feel about that.
It is something where a lot of people are kind of stuck in their day-to-day roles, and this will give them an opportunity to essentially come out of their shell and help out in a very positive thing.
Awesome. Well, folks, we're winding down. So again, this all got started by this cast member project we're doing for the New England Center and Homeless Veterans 2018 Leave No One Behind Gala. I'll have a link to that in the blog post for the podcast, and definitely want to check that out. You're going to see people dressed up in World War I attire for the live stream they're going to do. It's going to be very, very cool. And for me, I'm going to have pictures in the Facebook live stream that I do for the podcast next week. But I just want us, as we get near to Veterans Day and Armistice Day, to understand that 100 years ago, we had kids that were between the ages of 16 and 20 doing things that we just don't see every day now. So I just want to say thank you to Gary and Jake for having Oscar Mike Radio down here to talk with me. I'm going to take some more pictures. You want to check out the blog post, the Facebook post. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for having us here. And like I said, Jake and I wanted, if there's anything we could do to help you guys out, we perpetuate this, and that's what we wanted to do. That's our goal. That's the mission of all this, and I will maintain this as long as I can. Everybody asks me, what are you going to do with it? Probably die with it. I'm not getting rid of it.
Your lovely wife of 38 years must enjoy seeing you. I can see your face lighting up, and so hopefully we'll be back to talk to you again in the future for other things. And folks, again, You heard this here on Oscar Mike Radio. This family's been great. We are out.